something which I found quite remarkable. 4th of July is a big season for movies in the United States, and yet Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, which allegedly is an absolutely terrible film, that was beaten at the box office by a film essentially about rescuing children from human traffickers, which, well, look, I'm not advocating that you go see the film. I don't think it's out in New Zealand box offices yet, but it does, I suppose, point out that the topic of rescuing children from human traffickers is something which is obviously important to a lot of people. Yes, it is a huge problem around the world, but there's a growing awareness of it, and I suppose a passion to do something about it. An organisation that's been leading the charge in that regard for many years is Child Rescue. CEO of Child Rescue New Zealand, Brian Saipe, joins me in the studio. Kia ora, good morning. Thanks for your time today.
Good morning, Andrew. Always good to be here.
Nice to have you in the studio. Now, at the end of the month, there's a significant day. Now, I think it's the UN is involved behind this one. It's a significant day highlighting the issue of human trafficking in particular. Important to make the most of these days, I suppose, to draw awareness to the scale of the problem, Brian.
It is, Andrew. This is called the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. It occurs on the 30th of July. And there is a theme for 2023, which is reach every victim of trafficking, leave no one behind. There's a definition of that theme, and if you forgive me, it's a bit of a mouthful, so I will read it for you. But this is what they say. Global crises, conflicts, and the climate emergency are escalating trafficking risks. Displacement and socio-economic inequalities are impacting millions of people worldwide, leaving them vulnerable to exploitation by traffickers. Those who lack legal status, live in poverty, have limited access to education, healthcare, or decent work, face discrimination, violence, or abuse, or come from marginalised communities, which are often the primary targets of traffickers, and we've certainly found that to be true in our work.
Certainly no surprises to you. This is what you're involved with, and some absolutely awful things happening at a huge scale around the world. But I know, Brian, you're in the business of hope. Stories of people whose lives are transformed and whose lives are set free. Unpack, I suppose, the work of Child Rescue a little bit. What sort of areas are you working in? What sort of work are you involved with, Brian?
Child Rescue is partnered with a larger organisation. It's got a long name, so I'll just call it DRI for the moment. So DRI works in 10 countries across 3 different continents, and it is specifically focused on rescuing young people from exploitation. And I won't be too graphic about that because I'm conscious of the fact that this is a time of day when beautiful young years could be listening
School
to
holidays
this.
as well. Yes, thank you for that, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So they're specifically focused on intervening. They rescue young people from where they're being exploited, and they help them stay free. And with the generosity of our New Zealand supporters, we're able to help that work, particularly in South Asia. And Child Rescue funds directly work that goes on in Thailand, Philippines, and Cambodia. And we indirectly assist the larger organisation, because the more support we can provide for those countries, the more they can actually rejig their financial impact to pour more into additional countries. And this is the way that we operate.
No, that's fantastic stuff. Now, I mean, looking at the statistics, this is one of I think the fastest growing organised criminal activity. It is more prevalent than the arms trade. It's almost as much as the drug trade internationally. The numbers are growing more and more. But with this International Day coming up at the end of the month, leave no one behind, that sounds like a wonderful goal, but of course very difficult to achieve, Brian.
Sometimes it is, and sometimes one of the instructive dynamics in our operations is being part of raids that we might be doing on an organised basis with the national authorities in a particular country. And sometimes because of tip-offs and because of leaks, those raids fail, which is very disturbing to our agents, because the young people who are the focus of those raids often only have one chance to get out of this exploitation before they get moved somewhere else.
I understand for some situations, the local authorities, even the police, they're in on the the deal, as it were. They're not necessarily beyond reproach. They're taking bribes, complicated situations to work in. But despite all of that, some wonderful success, some reasons to celebrate.
Certainly, Andrew, and one of the things that we do as a collective organisation is to work with the national authorities in particular countries. And if people would like to go to Child Rescue's website, they will see a story there, and it's called The New Weapon in the War Against OSAC. And what is happening is that the organisation is actually able to support police forces where there is a good relationship with the government, and teach them techniques to actually track down children who are being abused, and with that activity being filmed. We've also had situations where we have been successful in not leaving anybody behind. And recently we had an all-in session with our International Director of Rescues. He's been with the organisation for 14 years now. And he was sharing some of his stories, and one of them, which was quite moving for him, but very simple, goes like this. If you can imagine a country which I won't disclose, but things are a little bit easier, or they were back then when it came to the rescue business. We had one Kiwi agent who's still working for us, one Australian agent, and they went to a bar where there were 3 girls around about 12. Can you imagine that? 12-year-olds.
Yeah.
They were able to talk to these young people and persuade 2 of them to leave, where they could take them to a safe home that was looking after these children. So there was one that they didn't take with them, and I'm not quite sure of the reasons, but maybe it was because they're on motorbikes and they just didn't have room for her. When they reached the place where the other girls were sheltered and looked after, they wanted to go back and pick up the other one, and she was somewhat nervous, as you can imagine. She didn't know
Her 2 friends have just been abducted. She doesn't know the outcome, right?
Absolutely. So they were able to make some little video movies and send them to her on her cell phone. And she could see kids in the home playing table tennis and having a great time. And eventually she agreed to being picked up. And by the time that they returned with her to this place, it was night time, and, you know, all kids were getting ready for bed. And when she saw her friends, the look of joy on the faces, and the relief and the security and the safety of being able to sleep in her own bed without being attacked were just amazing. And this particular agent of ours remembers that situation to this day, and he said it was a great feeling just to see the faces, to see the relief.
It is amazing to be able to tell those stories, and of course those stories made possible by the agents in the field, but also the support of people here in New Zealand. You mentioned beforehand, Brian, at school holidays there'll be people listening into this with family members, but you also said that some of those impacted 12-year-old girls, sometimes even younger than that. For people listening to this at the moment, perhaps with their family around them, as a family they could respond to set people, particularly girls, but young people, free from some very despicable things happening in other parts of the world. How can we be a part of it, particularly as we're getting to this significant day at the end of the month? How can we be part of the answer, part of the rescue here?
Andrew, people can be part of the answer in a number of different ways. They can actually follow us on social media, and they can share the stuff that we put up there. We're indebted to our American colleagues. They post frequently, and the information they put up there is very, very good. They can also go to our website, and you can find stories about rescues on our websites, and you can also find our donations page where people can work their way through and donate online.
So what is the website? Just quickly, just about out of time.
childrescue.org.nz.
childrescue.org.nz. Brian, thank you so much for what you and the team are doing. Certainly encourage people to check out that website. Thanks for your time.
Bless you, Andrew.